Right, it looks like being announced, according to Boxing Scene and various other sites and reports, etc., that Diego Chavez will fight Kell Brook October the 24th on a UK show. Now, this is a surprise. It is a surprise because October the 24th is the date that Tyson Fury is fighting WladImir Klitschko. It's also a surprise because Diego Chavez was due to fight Devon Alexander in a final eliminator for Kell Brook's title. So let me take those one by one. Firstly, this news all but confirms to me that Tyson Fury, WladImir Klitschko, will be on Sky Box Office. Let me tell you why. Kell Brook is an Eddie Hearn pay-per-view fighter. And there is no way Eddie Hearn would take on Fury Klitschko with a pay-per-view on the same night, headlined by Kell Brook, Diego Chavez. Put simply, it's not big enough, and it wouldn't even sell 100,000 pay-per-views. You know, not with a fight of that magnitude, Fury Klitschko on the other side. The fact that these are happening on the same date confirms my suspicions, which I mentioned on the channel previously, that Eddie Hearn has won the rights for Fury Klitschko, and that they will do a double-header pay-per-view with Fury Klitschko in Germany, Kell Brook, Chavez and an undercard in the UK. Expect these fights to be pay-per-view October the 24th. Very confident of that. Now, the Diego Chavez, Devon Alexander. Obviously, those two are scheduled. It's going to be very hard for Devon Alexander. And let me say, this is actually the second time Eddie Hearn's done this. Because I think last time, Frankie Gavin was scheduled to meet Tim Bradley in a final eliminator. And Eddie Hearn picked one of the two guys from that final eliminator and made the fight. So, Diego Chavez, obviously they can kind of justify it by saying he's very highly ranked. He probably would have got a chance to fight Kell Brook anyway, and similar to what they did with Jojo Dan, they could almost try and use the sell, oh, we're getting our mandatory out of the way early. Let me say, when I first heard the news of this fight, I was relieved. Let me tell you why I was relieved. It's because the name wasn't Chris Van Heerden, the name wasn't Leonard Bundu. Those were the names Amir Khan had said that Kell Brook was linked to. After the news sunk in, and after the initial relief that it wasn't Leonard Bundu or Chris Van Heerden had subsided, I must admit I became increasingly disappointed by this fight. Now let me say, Diego Chavez, he's been in some high-profile fights, but with the depth of fighters at welterweight, there is no way this guy is a top 10 welterweight. No way. Mayweather, Pacquiao, Marquez, Khan, Brook, Porter, Bradley, Broner, Maidana, Guerrero, Spence, Devon Alexander I'd have above him. You know, the list goes on. Berto, maybe even Victor Ortiz. I'm sure there's other names that I've missed out there as well. You know, there are a huge group of fighters who I think would provide a more competitive matchup. Even Chris Algieri, Adrian Broner. You know, there are more names out there to fight than Diego Chavez. And whilst he is a guy who comes to fight and he comes for a war, let's have it right, he was stopped by Keith Thurman. He lost, despite controversial fashion, he lost to Brandon Rios. Actually, Brandon Rios, another name you'd have above him in the rankings. So, I know that was a close fight, but he lost to Brandon Rios. He lost to Keith Thurman. He drew against Tim Bradley in a fight where the vast majority would suggest that he lost. So what we're looking at here is a guy who is some way from the top of the welterweight division. A guy who tends to lose or draw when he steps up to fight the elite. And to be honest, he is not a guy I really see giving Kell Brook problems. You know, it's Diego Chavez, he probably is a step up from Frankie Gavin. He definitely is a step up from Jojo Dan. But again, whether it's a step up or not, it's not a competitive fight. It's not a fight where we're going to see Kell Brook tested. It's not a fight where Kell Brook is going to solidify himself as the top of the welterweight division. I mean, it's amazing. You know, you look at Kell Brook's capabilities and the fact he's got the longest undefeated streak in British boxing. And, yeah, some fans in the US wouldn't even rank him in the top 5 of the welterweight division. they'd have guys like Keith Thurman, Amir Khan, Bradley, Marquez, obviously Pacquiao, Mayweather, well above this guy. And it's fights like this that solidify that. I mean, he's fought some so-so fights, you know, Frankie Gavin, Sinchenko, this one, Chavez. The only real top 10 fight he's ever had is Sean Porter. And that was close. That could have gone either way. That was a tight fight in my mind. So, whilst I like Kell Brook, whilst I'm a fan of his, I'm disappointed by this fight. It could be worse. You know, it could be a lot worse. But the fact it could be worse doesn't mean we should be happy with it. I mean, you know, if Deontay Wilder fights Matt Skelton next time out, you know, it could be worse. It could be Danny Williams. But, you know, we're not going to be happy with the fight. And for me, whilst I'm relieved it's not Chris Van Heerden, whilst I'm relieved it's not Leonard Bundu, I'm disappointed. And it seems like this year has been a bit of a waste from Kell Brook. Obviously, it's great that he's come back from injury. It's great that he stayed undefeated. But it's been a bit of a waste in terms of positioning him to get the big fights, to get the Mayweathers, the Pacquiaos, the Khans. You know, fights like this don't help him, in my mind. The Tyson Fury fight versus WladImir Klitschko is a very, very interesting fight. And in many ways, that's given Eddie Hearn a way out. Because, let's be honest, despite the fact that we're annoyed with the Kell Brook versus Chavez fight, or I'm annoyed, you may not be annoyed, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Maybe you think this is a good fight. But despite the fact that I'm annoyed by it, clearly I'll be watching, because Tyson Fury versus WladImir Klitschko is a grade A fight. That's a fight that's pay-per-view on its own. It is, in my opinion, slightly undesirable it's ended up on Sky pay-per-view. I'd have preferred to see it on Box Nation, but that's how it is. Obviously, Eddie Hearn's got in there. And I think, realistically, this puts to bed any suggestion that this fight, that Klitschko Fury could be on any channel bar Sky. Because there's no way Eddie Hearn would take it on with a Kell Brook Chavez fight. So they must be on the same bill in my mind. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on Kell Brook Chavez. Let me know your thoughts on Fury Klitschko. Will you be buying the pay-per-view? Do you think Chavez is a good fight? Are you disappointed? Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video.